Hey everyone, it's Laura here from makingcardston.com, and I'm excited to announce that I am guest designing for Wow Embossing Powder. So in total I will be creating two projects. So for my first project I am using the Flights of Fancy stamp set by Wow. I've used this stamp set in the past, but I just really love it, so I'm going to use it again. I think that you can use these images as leaves and feathers, so that's just why I love this set so much. So I have some watercolor paper over there, and I just put that on my Misty tool, and then I'm going to play around with these stamps. I'm just going to position them randomly onto that paper. So I'm just putting them on there, just placing them around, and then I'm going to pick those stamps up with my Misty tool. The reason why I'm using my Misty is because it's just easier to stamp all of these images at once. If you don't have a Misty, then you could use a Fiskars stamping tool. So I inked up those sleeves with Versamark ink, and I'm going to sprinkle those sleeves with some opaque bright white embossing powder from Wow, since I couldn't really see where I already stamped those images. I had some white space on this piece of paper, so I took some more of those stamps and I am going to position them again just so I can fill up those white areas. So I placed them onto my paper, and then I picked them up using my Misty tool, and then I'm just inking up those stamps using Versamark ink as well, since I will be doing some more heat embossing. After I stamp those images, I'm just going to sprinkle some more white embossing powder on there. So this is the super fine white embossing powder, and I like this the best for like detailed images, and I also like to use this powder for sentiments. So I'm just heat setting that embossing powder, and then I did some masking using some painter's tape. So I just adhered two strips of painter's tape, so I have some triangle shapes. And then I will be doing some ink blending. I am using the Sponge Sugar Distress ink first, and I am using some watercolor paper for this blending, because I just think that distress inks work better with watercolor paper, or at least for me. I just think that it's easier to blend the colors when using watercolor paper instead of just regular cardstock. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but every time I use regular cardstock I have trouble blending the colors. So for that mint color I used Cracked Pistachio Distress ink, and then for the purple color I used Shaded Lilac. So I removed those masks, and I'm going to adhere some more masks on there, and I'm going to adhere them so I have this little diamond shape in the center. And I'm using some soft pull ink from Hero Arts because I wanted some light blue, and I don't have a color like that in the distress inks, but the soft pull ink or just the Hero Arts inks were great for this blending technique as well. Then I'm using a dryer sheet, and I folded that in two so I have a nice and thick layer. And I'm going to adhere, I'm going to die cut. I'm going to die cut a hello greeting from Avriel. So I just ran that through my Big Shop machine, and then I'm going to pop out those center pieces. And the reason why I'm using a dryer sheet is because the die cut will stay nice in place, and it's just easier to do some techniques with that die. So I'm just pressing down my Versamark ink pad, and I'm going to sprinkle some clear embossing powder on there, since I want to have a glossy and kind of dimensional greeting for this card. Then I'm heat setting that embossing powder, so I'm just using my heat tool for that. And then after I heat set that powder, I removed the negative piece of that die, and then I can just easily peel off that die from that dryer sheet. I also die cut some tiny little hearts from Cyrus's stamp. These are from the mini heart die cut set, so I just ran all of these dies through my Big Shop machine. I won't be using all of them, but I just thought that I would have some extra ones in case something went wrong, because you never know. So I pressed down my Versamark ink pad on that paper, and then I also sprinkled some clear embossing powder on there. And then after heat setting that embossing powder, I can easily peel off those little dies. So I die cut another hello greeting, but this time I used some fun foam because I want like a dimensional hello greeting. So I put a little bit of glossy accents on the back of that hello greeting, and then I just pressed down that die cut onto some scratch paper just to get rid of all of that excess glossy accents. So I adhere that onto the fun foam, and then I'm just adhering the finished hello greeting onto the card using some fun foam as well. Glossy accents, I mean, not fun foam. I use glossy accents to adhere that greeting. And then finally, I am just adhering a couple of sequins from the ton onto this card. And I always like to use my tweezers and my glossy accents to adhere those. And then of course, I'm also adhering some of those little hearts that we created earlier in the video. So that finishes up my first card as a Wow Embossing Powder guest designer. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye bye.